School of Sustainability. We are organizing to make sure that the Stanford School of Sustainability remains true to its name and doesn't accept money from organizations that are not taking the climate crisis seriously, to put it very diplomatically. We are co-sponsoring this event with Scientists Speak Up. So big shout out to them for putting this together with us. We will be serving lunch afterwards. We'll also have the slide set up and a sign-up list for people that are interested afterwards, want to learn more, maybe do some one-on-one coffee sessions with us that we're trying to do to sort of tell people more. So if you're interested in any of that, stick around afterwards. We'll also be raffling off a copy of David's book at the end of this. So if you're interested in that, stick around too. Yeah, with that out of the way, I am very excited to introduce David Fenton. David has had a long career in PR and activism. He dropped out of high school in the 60s to become a photojournalist, became an activist shortly thereafter. And the story goes that he was already very good at PR back then, because his 1972 FBI files say that he was an outstanding public relations man.
Put it on my resume.
Yeah. Leaning into this, he founded Fenton, the first leftist/progressive PR firm in the 80s. He's had a long and illustrious career since, working with folks like Yoko Ono, Nelson Mandela, and many others. And he recently published a book that you can see on the screen. Actually, not on that screen, but if you're on Zoom, you can see it on the screen, called the Activist Media Handbook. It's part memoir and part handbook with valuable lessons for activists. I read the book. I enjoyed it a lot. And so I am very excited to have David here to teach us about how to deal with fossil fuel disinformation. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you like you said, I'm not. Thank you. Yeah, I dropped out of high school. I never finished. I never went to college for a day. So you need to take everything I say with a big grain of salt. Right? I'm massively uneducated. And imagine how my mother felt when I dropped out of high school. She got over it eventually because my photographs were published in the New York Times with my name on it, so she could show her friend. So to set the context for today, I want to show you a Chevron ad.
We at Chevron believe that nothing is more precious than life, and that the most precious life of all is the dead kind. They've been compressed for hundreds of millions of years under massive rocks until it magically becomes oil. Oil that we can refine and sell as gasoline, so a cool-ass tank can crush a clay hut. Or an airplane can take a businessman 3,000 miles to have dinner with someone, or whatever. All the while releasing greenhouse gases that are transforming the planet right this second into a hellish George Miller. Because at the end of the day, we at Chevron straight up don't give a single fuck about you, your weird children, or your stupid ratty ass dog. We have billions and billions of dollars to pay for this commercial time, this cheesy footage, and this bullshit music. All so that you will be lulled into a catatonic state that makes you forget one singular fact. Chevron is actively murdering every day. See, the human brain can only deal with so many things at once. Clean, emotionally loaded things will always push aside other thoughts. Chevron is murdering. It's just how our brains work. We up it with this, this profits. Chevron. It's hard to even comprehend a little of a fuck could give about it. And this commercial also plays into the accident show it don't come out from me and any hack just money in one sense.
So that's what we're facing. And thanks to the film director, Adam McKay, who made that ad. You may be familiar with his work. He made Don't Look Up, which is now the third most popular film in Netflix history. And he made The Big Short, and he made Vice, and he made Anchorman, and he's one of the people that started the series Succession. And he's very dedicated to climate, and there's a lot more to come from Adam on culture hacking the issue. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy situation, you know. Think about what Shakespeare would have done with our current situation. So when I talk this way, I sound like some kind of wild, crazy radical, but what I'm going to say is exactly the precise truth. So we're in a situation where there are a few fossil fuel companies and their bankers, and they are determined to make as much money as they can over the next 20, 30 years, even if it means, and they know it does mean, that they're going to risk civilization, human life, and other species, and they could wipe out the whole human race. And they know this. You may have seen the story last week about what Exxon scientists told the CEO and the executives of Exxon in the 1970s, that their continued product use would basically destroy the climate. And the scientists predicted almost precisely how much carbon dioxide would be in the atmosphere today in the 70s and what it would mean for storms and fires and droughts and sea level rise. They knew all this. And in what could be the greatest crime in human history, in my opinion, they covered it up and then set about spending billions of dollars to lie about it. That's actually what happened. So yes, there's like 100 white guys at these companies, and they're ready to destroy everybody's future so they can make money. That's really what's happening. So what do you think Shakespeare would have done with an epic of that magnitude? Pretty amazing, right? But we don't talk about it this way. We don't think about it this way. In fact, the research shows that the public rarely hears about climate change at all. And only 30% of the public are alarmed about climate change. And when you press, it's a low priority issue, even for most of them. You know, the people at the Yale Project on Climate Change Communication recently surveyed likely voters. They gave them a list of 29 issues to rank in order of importance. The public picked climate change 24th of 29. So the most interesting statistic to me is that only 20% of Americans know that all the climate scientists agree humans are heating the earth and how that this is a great danger to us. Most people still think there's enormous scientific disagreement about this. And among peer-reviewed published climate scientists, there is none. So why is that? Okay, so spreading doubt about whether scientists agreed was the propaganda strategy of the oil, coal, and gas companies. And they were very good at it. It's well documented by the sociologist Naomi Oreskes in her book and documentary, Merchants of Doubt. They learned this propaganda technique from the tobacco industry, whose PR firms spread doubt about whether doctors agreed that cigarettes cause cancer when they well knew that the doctors did agree. So this has seared into the population intentional doubt and confusion. And this is why we're in this pickle today, where there's not enough political will to demand the scale of action that's actually necessary to save ourselves and have a much better future. So I bring this up because with what you face here at Stanford, this is, you know, a moral issue of the highest order. These sleazy, lying, disgusting, greedy companies, all extremely accurate terms, know what they're doing to us. And so associating with them and collaborating with them is a very, very important thing to think about. Okay, so I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me for a few minutes. So I published this book. There'll be some copies on sale here after we're done. And it's an attempt to distill lessons I've learned in half a century of being an activist about how to do communications for social change. And I've distilled about 10 or 12 basic principles of this I won't go through them all now, but the most important ones are craft simple messages everyone can understand and repeat them, because it's only the repetition of simple messages that changes the brain. That's how the brain learns. You know, the linguists and the cognitive scientists will tell you that as you're exposed to language over your lifetime, it builds circuitry. There's neural circuitry in your brain linked to that language and imagery. And so when you talk about an issue, you want to activate existing circuits, or what they call frames. So for example, when I say we need to get to net zero, I'm not activating any existing frames, and the public really has no idea what that means. None. When I say we have to stop pollution that's heating the earth, everybody says, oh, pollution, activated circuit. I know what that is, and no one likes it. Nobody will defend pollution. So the other principle of repetition of simple messages also has a political dimension, because political pressure or pressure on people in positions of power comes from repetition. These people are sophisticated. You know, if there's a one-day story that there's a one-day protest, they're like, okay, that story is going to go away. I don't have to worry about it. But Chinese water torture, continual activity that keeps spreading these messages and creating pressure, that's what causes them to start appointing committees and presidential commissions and all this. So when you devise activist strategies and communication strategies, repetition is the key. Now, you know, we don't like, many of us, make America great again, right? But that works. That's how things work on the brain. So we need to keep that in mind. You'll notice another principle here is tell the truth. You know, scientists love complexity, and we have to communicate the truth, but we also have to simplify it. And you can simplify science and the truth in ethical and responsible ways. And that's what we have to do. Okay, so a few things about the past. So this is me at age 17. Right after I dropped out of high school, I was a photojournalist. I had a helmet and a gas mask with me because I photographed a lot of riots and demonstrations. I worked at a place called Liberation News Service, which served all the hippie anti-war underground newspapers of the time. I took that photo of Tricky Dick. And I got to meet a lot of really interesting people. Who knows who that is? Thank you. The greatest at a Black Panther rally in Harlem. I saw a lot of violence and demonstrations. These women were protesting the war at the Fort Dix, New Jersey Army base, where this sign, obedience to the law is freedom, was at the entrance to the stockade, the military prison, where they kept the American soldiers who refused to fight in Vietnam. After this photo circulated all over the world, they took the sign down. This was my first PR victory. This kid burned an American flag in Central Park in New York, and the cop beat the crap out of him. Back then, this is 1969, you actually had to hold up a sign to say, judge women as people, not as wives. So yes, there's been some progress, not enough. I got to take pictures of a lot of great music. Who knows who that is? Come on. Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones, and you know who that is. That's Mick in the Air. So that was kind of fun as a teenager to see all that stuff. Now, this is Abbie Hoffman. Most young people today don't know who he was, but he's very important to study if you want to be an activist and if you also want to have fun, because he was the funniest, most courageous activist, I think, in that period. And if you've seen the Netflix film, The Trial of the Chicago Seven, Sacha Baron Cohen plays Abbie. And he taught me public relations and myth making, and he was a genius at it, really a genius. In fact, he ran a pig for president. Vote pig. And this generated a lot of media coverage, as you might imagine. That's the pig, Pegasus. And of course, a number of other pigs have run for president since. So this is also me, I'm embarrassed to tell you. At age 19, when I stopped photography and started doing public relations, and I'm on two phones at once there, running a campaign to get a guy out of prison who was sentenced to 10 years for 2 joints in Michigan. And we did eventually get him out because John Lennon and Yoko Ono and Stevie Wonder came and played a big benefit concert for him. And this created so much pressure on the courts that this was a Friday night, this concert. On Monday, the Michigan Supreme Court let him out and overturned the state's marijuana laws as unconstitutional. And I said, wow, rock and roll. This stuff really works. That's John and Yoko playing acoustic at that concert. So we were kind of crazy in Ann Arbor. I ran a hippie newspaper. We had a contest. That was the grand prize, a pound of Colombian. And I actually gave the prize to the winner. Ever see a pound of marijuana? It's like a lot, right? So I show up at the dorm of a freshman at the University of Michigan who'd never gotten high in her life. And like, you won, right? So we took a picture of her and put it on the cover of the paper. Yeah, we were kind of marijuana obsessed. We, in 1973, we made the sale and possession of marijuana in Michigan a $5 parking ticket. That was pretty early, right? And then I went to work at High Times Magazine in New York. And then I went to work at Rolling Stone Magazine. I became the director of public relations. And this is when I first started getting involved in energy. And I produced the so-called No Nukes concerts at Madison Square Garden. MUSE stood for Musicians United for Safe Energy. And this was Bruce Springsteen, Jackson Browne, Bonnie Raitt, Carly Simon, James Taylor, the Doobie Brothers, Chaka Khan. And we did 5 nights of concerts against nuclear energy and made a record and a motion picture. So then I started my firm because I thought there should be a PR firm that didn't lie and that wasn't just guns for hire to lie and to work for peace and social justice, the environment, public health, and human rights. That firm still exists. In the course of this work, I met some more interesting people, including this guy. That's me in Fidel Castro's office in the early 1980s. Fascinating guy. I told him he should stop wearing the green army uniform, and he never wore it again on a foreign trip. And when I got home, the FBI called me and tried to recruit me as a counterintelligence agent. I gave them my lawyers. So the highlight of my career was working with Nelson Mandela, the only saint I've ever met, had transcended anger. I don't know about you, but if they kept me in jail for 27 years, I'd want to machine gun people. He was above it all. And I worked with him on the presidential campaign in South Africa and his first US tour. And it's really the highlight of my career. So I'm going to get to the issue at hand in a moment. So there was a pesticide in apples until 1989 called alum. And it was the most dangerous chemical in the food supply for children because kids eat a lot of applesauce and apple juice for their size. And they were being way overdosed with this chemical. And there had been lawsuits to try to ban it. And the pediatricians were trying to ban it. And nothing was working. It was stuck in the EPA, regulatory capture, it's called, otherwise known as corruption. So we took the story of the science of the danger of this chemical to 60 Minutes, and they did a story about it. And frames we talked about, right? So symbols are frames too in the brain. So they took the symbol of an apple a day keeps the doctor away and put a poison symbol on it. So what happened? The next morning, back then, 35 million people watched 60 Minutes. There's plenty of seats in here. The next morning, literally the public stopped buying apples. The bottom fell out of the apple market. Within 5 days, Uniroyal, the manufacturer, was forced to withdraw the chemical from the market. And then the EPA finally did ban it. It's now illegal to have any of it. So this is the public acting based on symbolism and information, and it's a powerful thing, and we need to use it to save the climate. 10 years after that, we ran this ad. There were still all of these horrible chemicals in apples. There's 8, there's still 7 of them, bioorganic. Okay, so this is an ad I did before the Iraq invasion. I want you to invade Iraq, says Osama bin Laden, help me recruit more terrorists. Of course, that's what happened. We went after Bush for misleading people. So this campaign in 2012, that's Yoko Ono. And we stopped fracking in New York State, one of only 2 states to ban it. We had a simple slogan, don't frack New York, easy to understand. And we bought a billboard, Governor Cuomo, imagine there's no fracking. Cuomo was really upset about this. And we took the press with Yoko and her son, Sean Lennon, to nearby Dimock, Pennsylvania, to visit the results of the fracking, which frequently poisons water supply because, like 30% of the wells leak. And once they do, you can't fix them. They're too far into the ground. So that was the water from an adjacent home. And of course, the gas companies said that the fact that you could light the tap water on fire in that house was a coincidence. It had nothing to do with the fracking well they had just drilled across the street. These people have no shame. So the communists had Prov, the Republicans have Fox News. It's still true. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of climate ads, and then let's get into the discussion of the situation here with the polluting money entering the campus. So I've told you that, I haven't told you, but as you know, Fox News denies that global warming is real. And Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal editorial page, by the way, denies it too, even now. 2 million copies a day, certainly the second most influential newspaper in the country. Climate change is nothing to worry about. It's incredible, right? This is what, 2023? So we decided to make some fun of them.
Wildfire was actually visible from a satellite 22 miles in space. Southern Californians flock to beaches and record numbers as temperatures soar for the 4th. Florida residents are breaking from more coastal flooding as storms.
You tried to buy that ad on Fox News, they wouldn't sell it to us, but we bought it on all the other cable systems during the Republican National Convention. So I told you before that only 20% of Americans know that all the climate scientists, that there's consensus, of course, that we're heating the earth with fossil fuel pollution. But people don't know this. So we're trying to find ways to simplify it for people. Tell me what you think of this.
If 97% of all dentists told you a tooth couldn't be saved, you'd pull that tooth. If 97% of all engineers told you your house was unstable, you'd move. And if 97% of all airline workers told you not to get on a plane, you wouldn't. So if 97% of the world's climate science experts tell you our planet is warming and we are responsible, why would you ignore them? When you're 97% certain, you're certain. Protect America from climate change.
What do you think? Makes it pretty simple, right? So I'm running a campaign right now with some folks from Greenpeace and EWG and Earth Justice against Bitcoin's profligate, wasteful, polluting use of energy. It's ridiculous. Bitcoin does use more power than all of Sweden, hell yeah. And you can learn more about this campaign at cleanupbitcoin.com. Some of you may know that Ethereum, the #2 cryptocurrency, recently changed its software code and reduced its energy use 99.9%. So we're pressuring Bitcoin to do the same. So we did these ads for Greenpeace recently. That's actually what's happening in California, right? It's kind of, hard to believe, but that's actually what's going on. So I'm gonna just show you, let's see if I can find it here. I think actually that's enough. So let me talk a little bit about the language of global warming, because if you're going to do campaigns on this, you need to make sure that people are following you. So the #1 testing message on global warming in this country is make polluters pay for their pollution. As I told you before, when you say the word pollution, everybody knows what you mean, and there's no one going to defend it. So the metaphor, the visual metaphor for what we're doing to the earth that works the best with the public, that I wish more people would use, is with the gases from burning fossil fuels, we've put a blanket of pollution around the Earth. And like blankets do, it's trapping heat and keeping it from going back out to space. It's kind of like when you were a kid and your father would put an extra blanket on you while you were sleeping and you'd wake up sweating. That's what we're doing to the Earth. Now, people can understand that. When you ask people what's global warming, most people can't explain it to you. We won't mobilize the political will to change the energy system, the markets, and policy until more people can explain it to you. You can't mobilize people as if for war, which is what we need to do, actually, if they don't know they're under attack. So under that blanket of pollution circling the Earth, of course, there's a lot of energy being trapped. And I was writing a TED Talk for the great climate scientist, Dr. James Hansen, a few years ago. And he wanted to explain to the audience how way out of energy balance the Earth is. There's so much more heat energy is coming into Earth's atmosphere than is now able to go back out to space like it used to. So I said, okay, Jim, sounds good, energy balance. How bad is it? He said, it's really bad. It's a quarter watt per square meter. Sound familiar? Wonky scientist talk. So I'm like, well, that doesn't sound very bad. And Jim got really mad at me. He said, what do you mean? There's like a lot of square meters on the Earth. I said, well, you think you could find another way to express this huge amount of energy that we're trapping? And a friend was there who took out a calculator, who's a physicist, and he said, oh, it's like exploding 400,000 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs in the Earth's atmosphere every day. 400,000 a day. And since that talk, which I believe was 2010, it's gone up because carbon is forever. And now it's 600,000 atomic bombs a day. So of course, all that energy has to go somewhere. Atmospheric rivers, prolonged droughts, more wildfires, sea level rise. People can understand this, and we need them to. So we need activists and the scientific community to use simple language and metaphors and tap existing mental frames and repeat it till everybody is sick to death of it. Only then will people act and do something about it. Now, another thing about social movements is that successful social movements seize and hold the moral high ground. That's how we defeated segregation, stopped the Vietnam War, got gay marriage, etc. The moral high ground. So this is a deeply moral issue. Are we going to let these 100 guys destroy the future and wreak havoc for money? Very moral. So all the campaigning has to be in a moral context. And what you do here on this campus should be in a moral context too. Then people will pay attention to you and support you. I would say that in moral struggles and in stories, people learn from stories, right? They don't learn from facts alone. People learn from facts when they are embedded in stories that have a moral dimension. And all stories, to be effective, what do they have? They have good actors and bad actors. They have good and they have evil. Those of you who've studied Joseph Campbell know what I'm talking about. So we have some really bad actors here. We have the executives at Exxon who were told in the 70s that their products were going to destroy a livable Earth, and they just went right on doing it and lying about it. Kind of immoral, don't you think? And they're still doing it. They're all still lying. You know, if you watch, I don't know, Chevron ads, it's like, they're bringing us green energy. That is a lie. The percentage of investment by all the fossil fuel companies in any kind of truly clean alternative energy is infinitesimal. It's tiny. It's greenwashing. What they're really doing is spending enormous amounts of capital expenditure and investment searching for, discovering, and drilling for new oil and gas. Now, the International Energy Agency is a very mainstream establishment institution. the IEA. The IEA and their boss, Viral, they're clear. Here's what they say. This is the establishment talking. There can be no more investment in any additional fossil fuel exploration or drilling if we are to survive. There can be none. We can't burn the majority of the fossil fuel reserves we already have. We have to burn some of it because we have to have a managed transition. But if we even burn a large percentage of what we already know that are already on the balance sheets of these companies, it's over. You'll have to abandon all the coastal cities of the world. The planet will basically be unlivable. Civilization will collapse. The companies know this. And yet they are all ignoring this edict that they have to stop. They have to freeze more development and more exploration and more drilling. This is basic physics, and it is the struggle of our lifetime. And so associating with and collaborating with these companies, in my opinion, is a crime. Unless a criteria is established. Sure, if Shell wants to say, we agree, we will stop spending money on any new fossil fuel exploration and development. We will manage a transition from the reserves that we have, and we will put our capital expenditures into electric cars and heat pumps and clean jet fuel and all of the things that we know can be done. So then, okay, that's legitimate. If they actually made a commitment like that, in my opinion, work with them. But if they don't, then basically what they're doing is planning to destroy the future of the economy and a livable earth for humanity. And why would you collaborate with that? So the morality of this is real. It is stark. It is simple. That's what they're doing. And that's how we should talk about it. And that will really rile people up, right? So that would be my recommendation. You know, now, when you hear all this complexity in return, I understand the arguments you get here are, well, the oil companies have the resources. We need to work with them because no one else has the resources in order to change the energy system. Well, that's a bunch of BS. First of all, the fossil fuel companies, they get financing from the banks. And JP Morgan Chase, by the way, is the #1 investor in fossil fuel destruction among the big banks. #1. We call it investing for extinction. So that money needs to be redirected to build up the clean energy and transportation infrastructure, stop deforestation, et cetera. That's where the money is. We don't need the fossil fuel companies. It's very unlikely that they're going to change their business model. I hope they will. Their business model is the destruction of your future. That is not rhetoric. That is the truth. Imagine. So I think that a very, very strong boundary should be drawn. If they're not going to follow the International Energy Agency and stop investing in any new fossil fuel exploration drilling, if they're going to phase it, not phase it out, they should have nothing to do with this institution or any other, in my opinion, and I hope in yours. All right, so that's what I have to say. Let's have a conversation, and maybe we can brainstorm and workshop some messages and tactics for Stanford, because I don't have to tell you, as Stanford goes, so goes the rest of higher education. What you're doing here is very important. Thank you very much.
I'll help moderate. So we're all hybrid. So I'll start with questions from the room. Also try to call on some folks in the chat. But who wants to be the first in the room?
Please tell me who you are.
Yes. Oh, and before you reply, I'll translate the question
As
too.
you wish. And if you work for Chevron, please identify yourself.
I'm just curious, where does like the culpability end? You know, like the fossil fuel companies produce the resources damaging the earth, but the society consumes it, or, you know, so I'm just curious, how do you reconcile that with, you know, pointing the finger at fossil fuel companies versus pointing the finger at construction companies that are building these buildings and making money off that using fossil fuel generated products?
Sure, that's a very good question.
Can you
wanna
repeat
it?
the
Yeah,
question?
or you can repeat it.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, yeah, the question is, we are pointing a lot of fingers at the companies that are producing the fossil fuels. There are a lot of companies downstream that are using these fuels to like build homes, make fertilizer, etc. Where does the culpability end of the fossil fuel company, and where does it become the other companies? Is that okay? Awesome.
Okay, sure. Okay, so those of us not driving electric vehicles didn't spend hundreds of millions of dollars to lie about climate change and what the products were doing for decades, thereby intentionally making it slow to regulate these industries and to have a managed transition. So while everyone is participating in the fossil fuel economy, I'm happy to say I participate in it as little as possible. My house is pollution free. I came down here in a Tesla that I charged with solar panels, but even I can't escape, you know, having to fly once in a while. But I don't see that it is our fault. You know, when the Exxon scientists told them in the 70s, had Exxon's management gone to Congress and the public and say, look, Houston, we have a problem. We have to invest mightily in a transition away from these polluting fuels in order to protect the public and humanity and life on Earth. And then, back then, we would have started that transition. We would have had Manhattan projects to invent and accelerate technological transformation. So while we all participate in the fossil fuel economy, I don't think it's equally our fault. They did that. They knew and they lied and they corrupted the political process, and they're still doing that. You know, unfortunately, you have many members of Congress, mostly Republicans, who are doing everything they can to stop climate action. And that's because of who they work for. These people are evil. So climate change is an infrastructure problem. It's not solvable at an individual level. While there are things we can all do in our lives to help, we can't solve the infrastructure problem. We don't have the capital. That has to be done at a government and market level. And the fossil fuel companies are intentionally stopping that. So that's why I consider them the primary culpable actors in this. And I think that is what history shows did happen. Okay, yeah, over here. And who are you? True. Right. Right. Well, you're a cognitive scientist. Oh, you'll repeat.
No,
You
just make sure that was-
do it.
Okay.
You have a memory.
Yeah. Barely, I should add. Yeah, the question is, if I'm interpreting it correctly, by saying that humans are causing climate change, we're buying into the enemy's frame, which is like kind of a problematic view for many reasons. What frame should we use instead? Is that an accurate?
And who should we study?
Oh yeah.
Very surprised it's not. I get the feeling he doesn't really understand the way he talks about it. I don't think he understands the components. I don't think he understands like he talks about dirty air. But I mean, I'm wondering why his climate advisors are not telling him starkly what he needs his life to be. I mean, he's the one who's captaining the ship while they're about to hit the iceberg. So, you know, I think bad guys, we could learn anything from child labor to slavery. There's always going to be incredibly greedy people who are going to take as much as they can, as they're allowed to legally. And since fossil fuels are still profitable and legal, I feel like the only option we have really is to make them legal, and that's
Sure.
yeah.
So the question is, why hasn't Biden done more? Does he really understand it? Are we going to make fossil fuels illegal? Look, so you asked a whole bunch of stuff. So quickly, the most important person to read about language and framing, you've probably heard of Dr. George Lakoff, the great UC Berkeley linguist. I'd start with his book, Don't Think of an Elephant. Now try that. That's framing. So, and he wrote another great book called Moral Politics that explores the difference in the brains and metaphors and worldviews of liberals and conservatives. Fascinating. He's a friend and a teacher of mine, and he wrote the introduction to my book. Now, as for Biden, so, Biden's a good person, and I think he does care about it. The problem is the conventional wisdom in Washington. And that comes from his political people in the White House. Look, the president has never given a primetime speech about climate change. The most important issue facing the country, he's never given a speech about it. You will never see Joe Biden say, climate change is being caused by burning oil, coal, and gas and their pollution. Never. So that has to do with their conventional wisdom perception of the political situation, which comes ultimately from the corrupting influence of fossil fuel money on our politics. So he's afraid and navigating this. And he really had to do this when Joe Manchin was the vote he needed. I don't think he needs to do it now. I'm disappointed too. At the same time, the Inflation Reduction Act that he passed is the most significant piece of climate legislation in the history of the world, and is going to do a lot of great things to accelerate the clean energy revolution. So in the end, you can't really blame the politicians. There's this famous story of when Franklin Roosevelt was elected president at first, and the unions went to meet with him and laid out their agenda. And Roosevelt said, I agree with you on every point. Now go out and make me do it. So these problems get solved by movements, by activism, by mass movements. And unfortunately, on climate, we don't yet really have a mass movement. We have an incipient mass movement. There's a lot of people concerned. They're not mobilized. So it's really up to us. We can change the political dynamic, but you can't just sit around expecting the elected officials to do it on their own. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do
the
we
chat.
want to take one from the chat?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to read it?
We've gotten sidetracked around the conversation about the funding and research by him saying that our efforts are making people feel uncomfortable and that we are creating a hostile environment for others, such as those working in exploration, etc. So what are your suggestions for how to respond to that?
Trigger warning. We should be sensitive. Look, that sounds really diversionary to me. Does he think that we should keep drilling for more oil, coal, and gas in violation of physics and what the International Energy Agency has clearly shown us we need to stop? So the head of your school thinks we should keep drilling for more when we can't use most of the reserves we have and maintain a livable climate? I would put it back on him. How hot does he want it to get? How strong does he want the wildfires to get? Does he want the Stanford campus endangered by wildfires? I was just in South Lake Tahoe. They were 2 hours away from having to evacuate the whole city because of the Caldor fire. These things are intensifying, and we know the reason why. We're trapping all this heat energy on Earth, and it's making all this worse. And if we keep investing in more fossil fuel drilling and infrastructure instead of investing in the rapid transition, this is all going to get worse. So that just sounds like a classic diversion to me. And I'm sure that he's interested in real sustainability too, but it's interesting. Elites in this country have mostly not fully internalized the actual scientific situation that we are in. They're in denial too. So, you're going to have to help them get out of denial. I mean, I had an idea, it's probably a little crazy. Back in Ann Arbor in the early 70s during the Vietnam War, there was a laboratory on the campus that was doing war research to automate the battlefield in Vietnam for Nixon so he could end the draft. And this became a flashpoint of protest on the campus. And one morning, everybody woke up and somehow hundreds of bomb craters had been dug on campus all over the place. And the security people came and filled in the bomb craters. And the next morning, once again, hundreds of bomb craters all over the campus. It kind of made it an issue on the campus about what was being done in our name, culminated in a huge demonstration where we dug a huge bomb crater and the police attacked everybody. Anyway, the pressure worked, they shut down that lab. So I don't know, maybe you need to go out with some like hand drills. I'm not sure, but creative action that has a little humor in it and is repetitive will change this dynamic. Absolutely. Yeah, over here with the glasses, yeah. And tell us who you are.
How do people think about that? Your research can have good impact, but it's also possibly greenwashing for the difficult.
What's your answer?
I'm
You
first
should
going
come
to repeat the
into
question.
view. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
okay. So the question is, there's a lot of research that is ostensibly green and good, but that is also funded by fossil fuel companies. Like, how do you maneuver that? Am I getting that right? I can let you get your take on that too. My personal take is, if I am Shell, Chevron, Exxon, you name it, if I am one of these companies, I will never fund a solution that threatens my business model. And ideally, I will fund solutions that align with my business model. So I think we have to think, my understanding is they're shining a spotlight with this funding. It's kind of like a spotlight that shines light on the particular solutions that an Exxon wants to happen. Like, as an institution, I feel like we work for the public good, and we shouldn't just let ourselves be funded by people that are saying, hey guys, look over there. Don't worry about all this coal we're drilling out of the ground. We'll catch the CO2 later, all right? Go, like, Stanford is literally looking into funding our carbon capture and storage initiative right now that they're going to set up, funded by Bank of America, Exxon, Shell, and Total. That's my take. I'm not going to judge anyone that does this research, especially if you have good intentions. But I think as scientists, it would serve us well to consider the broader societal context of what we're doing and how we are letting these companies direct our little flashlights and who that serves. That's my answer.
Look, there's no simple answer to a question like that, except find other sources of funding.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money out here. You don't necessarily have to have this research paid for by Exxon. And until they sign a pledge to stop spending money exploring and drilling for more fossil fuel, I wouldn't take their money, because that's complicity, in essentially ecocide. And that's what it is. So, this is why I do think you could set a deadline, for example. You could say, we're not going to work on projects funded by any company that doesn't sign a pledge to abide by the International Energy Agency's dictum that all new capital expenditure on fossil fuel exploration and drilling has to stop now. If you won't sign that pledge in 6 months or a year or whatever it is, we can't have anything to do with you. It'd be like, working with a mass murderer. So you might consider an approach like that, but there's plenty of other money around. I want to say one thing about carbon capture. We may slightly disagree about this. So we're going to need some carbon capture. We're going to have to take carbon out of the air. There's way too much. We can do a lot of it with natural systems, probably not all of it. We're going to need some mechanical. What we should not allow is carbon capture as a fig leaf, as a way to rescue the production of electric power and fossil fuels. We don't need it. We know how to transform the energy system to be 100% carbon free. We do not need to capture carbon for producing power. We don't have a few technologies yet, like to make concrete at scale without a lot of pollution, and certain high heat processes like making steel. We don't really have solutions to this quite yet. So I wouldn't oppose carbon capture for those specific technologies where we don't have an answer. But what Exxon's hoping for is that carbon capture will let them off the hook and let them keep on with their business model. And that's a problem.
I think I'm broadly on board with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
over
Should we-
here.
should- we're creeping up
That's
on
up to
time.
you.
At least-
I'm going to stay. I mean, we can talk privately. Over here.
Wait, really quickly. Oh,
On one hand, we have personally there, but also we're processing that in some kind of person that is even activated. So here's about your advice and question about your
Sounds like one of you needs to be the good cop and one of you needs to be the bad cop. It's a time-honored technique. You know, if you look at history, things don't change without a combination of radical activism on the outside and internal pressure and discussion on the inside. You need both. But don't let anyone fool you into thinking only the inside game works by itself. It doesn't. You know, you have to have visible radical action. There are times that you have to have civil disobedience. I mean, I wouldn't throw paint at a Van Gogh painting. I mean, soup. Bad framing. Ha ha ha. But you know, these people are evil, and this war needs to be brought home to them. But at the same time, there are a lot of very well-intentioned people at these schools trying to do the right thing. And you know, so it's a combination of the fist and glove. You have to do both. Okay.
Thank you so much. I think we'll end the recording here,
Okay.
Mallory.